soif. Tu bois sans dire à tout.
What is going on, Jerk Faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we're back. We're live. Got a fun and exciting show for you tonight. So
Yeah.
So get your drinks, get your popcorn, whatever. Let's get this conversation started. As always, co-hosting this thing with me is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on?
Yeah. So, what's been going on with you, Rob?
Well, let's see. I had today off, so I got my hair cut. So that felt good to get. Was going to attempt to see Joker today. That didn't happen. So I am gonna see it this week though, because I do want to talk about it before everyone kind of. Eventually, it's gonna get spoiled for me. So I should probably go and watch it. I should go and watch it, especially since everyone's talking about it, and looks like it's a something successful that DC has done, despite it not really necessarily being super connected to DC. In a way, it is from what I've heard. So, other than that, just on Saturday I was at a car show at the Budweiser Brewery.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I got a chance to take the tour. Although it was not it was not a guided tour.
Mm-hmm.
They just had it they just had it open for people to kind of observe and see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will have to go back eventually for a guided tour, just because I want to hear about the history and how the whole process works. But one of the ones that was there was we got to see how the all the packaging works. They process like some 2,000 cans a minute. I mean, it is
2,000 cans a minute.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of Bud Light.
Yeah, it was just Bud Light that we saw too. It was crazy, and that was only it looked like even though it was massive. We were only seeing a part of it because, like I said, they obviously they do Budweiser, they do Bud Light, they do. I think they do in a small amount. At this particular plant, they do Busch, and some of the other Budweiser brands and stuff. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting to see. I mean, the show was good, got a lot of good food. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool just to see, even get a peek inside of the Willy Wonka factory that it is Budweiser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people don't know this, but for the rebooted Star Trek films, they used the Budweiser. They used the Budweiser plant as they used it as the interior of the Enterprise, specifically the engine room.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it was a fun show. I'm glad I went. I will have to. I'll have to find a way to do a guided tour at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Beer making is pretty fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd ever be good at it, but seeing how it all works, how they make the products that I enjoy, is kind of cool. And yeah, other than that, I've just been working, doing some gaming, watching movies, the same old, getting ready for to rage at a few things today. So
yes, if you haven't already noticed from the titles in the title box, we're gonna get into some stuff, I fully expect to be throttled a bit by YouTube over it.
We haven't had a rant about this in a while. Yeah,
That's true, right? Yeah. I was, as we're, because again, we don't really plan anything. Our planning sessions amount to, hey, what do you want to talk about? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Oh, well, I was thinking about this. That's cool. Actually, I want to talk about this. And it's like, all right, and then we start the show. But yeah, when I was just thinking how like the two topics for discussion tonight are kind of ranty, and I was like, we haven't really gone off on anything in a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you guys like that sort of thing, then tonight's your night.
All right. I mean, and I'm. That's why I brought in plenty of Bush, so I hopefully help out with the angering of the blood.
All right. Well,
man, the trains are running like crazy over in your area.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, the train tracks are literally, well, not literally, but they're still a stone's throw away from where I live.
Well, because that's like the third train I've heard in like the last 20 minutes.
Oh. Yeah, it's funny. For the longest time, or at least for the better part of my life, I've always lived close to train tracks.
Oh, so it's just like common.
Yeah, so I'm more or less used to it. But I also have the window open because because it's been warm.
It was 107 today.
Really?
In Van Nuys, it is.
Oh, in Van Nuys. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I checked the weather app today, and in my area it was like around in the mid 90s.
Yeah, I got up like right around like 4 o'clock. It was like 107. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Yeah, it typically doesn't really start cooling down until about Halloween time here in Southern California.
Yeah, I guess it's like I mean, it'll get down to what, like 75, 80. It's like, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, we do have a bit of a respite coming up on Monday, Tuesday, where it's dipped down into the 70s.
All right, time to get my sweater out.
Right, but but then it kind of does pick up back. I think it does kind of. It will kick back up a little bit into the 80s. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to when I can start layering my clothes.
But yeah, it was like, man, it was a hot one today.
Yeah. Well, really quickly, for me, this weekend was cool. I went away on a retreat with my church. About an hour away from where our church is. It was nice. Got to reconnect with some people that, that for one reason or another, we stopped like kind of hanging out or talking as much. So it was good to reconnect there, and also there have been a few there have been a few new young people that joined the body, and I'm ashamed to admit that I don't know them very well. I know their names. I say hi to them. It's it's a very superficial thing, but and they've been attending my church for a while, for at least at least 2 years, and I'm ashamed to say that I don't know them very well, and so this weekend was a nice opportunity to kind of sit down with them, share a meal with them and just getting to know them better.
Mm. Yeah, that's always good to do, and I mean that's what church is, about anyways, is to not obviously we get together to worship God, but it is about growing close to one another, praying for one another, caring for one another, and it's kind of it always helps when you know the people better and get along with them.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it a lot easier.
Right. All right. Let's get into the topic, because as all of you know, the movie review always comes at the end, because we always need something to we always need something to bring us down, especially for tonight. We always need something to take something to get us off the ledge. So.
Oh yeah, it'll take us off the ledge a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. And Rob, why don't you start us off with the topic of Hasbro's new rebranded Monopoly, titled Ms. Monopoly.
Yeah. So this is for, I would say, most of you, it's probably old news. Like I had heard about it. Well, this came out about a month ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't all that recently.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a couple of weeks. It was like maybe a couple of weeks to a month ago.
Yeah, honestly, it could have been 6 months ago. It's just like everything runs together.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hadn't seen though is, I heard about it as like, this sounds like completely dumb. But I saw the advertisement for it that Hasbro put out, which I almost threw up. I mean, it was just so. It was one of the cringiest commercials I have ever seen. And it's for a board game. Yeah, if for one.
That's right. Yeah, because they're talking like these girls, or there's specifically like there's this one school that had like a science and engineering like club or something, and I think it was like just incidentally was made up of all girls, and so they bring this the games to them, and but it was funny because it wasn't even like they weren't even the games inside. I think was it like building materials, or was it just like money?
It was filled with cash.
That's right. That's what it was. It was I knew it was one or the other, but I was a little bit more leaning towards the money. Yes, like, instead of like the game, so that they could play and be like all empowerment or whatever. They just gave him cash.
I mean, I would rather have the cash than the game too, but fuck, it's like, it's like, was this like some weird special promotion that happened that these girls won this competition, or like some sort of scholarship and it was like a Hasbro scholarship, and they just sent them cash, or what the? I have no idea what was going on with that.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that the whole lesson of Monopoly is how to be financially or be strategic with your finances, like buying certain properties over others, and making sure to avoid this or that, and development, and it's basic. Monopoly is basically a lesson in economics. But here's Hasbro rebranding their game, economic game, and then sending mixed messages by sending these group of girls just boxes full of free money.
Yeah,
It's like yeah, we want you to learn about these things. We want you to learn how to use money. But yeah, here's free money. It's like he's like don't worry about earning it.
Just yes. It was just.
Let the ranting begin.
So you have this, I mean, vomit-worthy commercial that that was promoting Miss Monopoly, but then like typical, Monopoly is one of those brands that has been marketed towards like, because I have a couple different versions of Monopoly. I mean, it's still the same basic game. I have like a Dodgers Monopoly. There's a Futurama Monopoly, Simpsons, blah, so on and so forth. You name it, they have a specialty version of it. This one obviously is kind of the same thing. From what I understand, the place tiles, like for the properties, are all these inventions that were supposedly invented by women. And but there's also all these special rules for women playing the game. If men are playing it, you get the normal $200 for pass and go. Women get $240, and the starting off money, the women get, I think, $1,900 as opposed to the men getting $1,500. And and the chance and community chess cards, some of the what's on there, it's like, what the fuck is this? What lesson is this teaching women? There was this I think one of them said, like, accuse a man of rape, and like he goes directly to jail, doesn't pass go, doesn't collect any money. It's like, what the fuck is this? It's like,
no, wait, let me just for clarity's sake. Are you saying that this is a legitimate card in the game?
This is a real card in this version of the game.
They printed that card and put it in the game, in the deck.
Yes.
It says, accuse a man of rape, he goes to jail.
Yeah. I mean, you can accuse any of the players, but it says, accuse, it's like, of course you're going to accuse a man of rape.
I mean, I just want to rage quit right now. I can't believe that is an actual card in the game. That they have so little self-awareness that they put that in the game. Oh, it's just Jesus, Allah Buddha,
Andy. It's ridiculous. And then here's the other thing too. So obviously you have the properties are inventions done by women, but when you actually do the research, now some of them are from legitimate. Like I think like coffee filters were in there. Well, one of the inventions is chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
But anyways, when you look in the actual, when you actually do research on these inventions, women didn't invent that. They were maybe part of the project, sure, but
they weren't directly responsible.
Like, no.
Okay. Of course not. It's like, well, this will tie into the later topic, but it's just like what's her face, Kathleen Kennedy. She was a producer on Star Wars. She was a producer on Indiana Jones and whatever, but she wasn't directly responsible for the creation of those movies. They weren't her original ideas. She was part of the team that helped create these properties, or help to bring to fruition the ideas of George Lucas or Steven Spielberg or yada yada yada.
Yeah, I think like one of it was like was like space station batteries, and like the woman that was, you know, quote unquote the inventor was like a project manager of, you know, the group that made it.
Right.
Which, like, okay, technically, I'm not saying that you weren't involved at all, but you're not the sole inventor of this thing. You can't
Right.
take credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's a team of people that worked on creating something, you can't take sole credit for that. That.
Right. I mean, yeah, we, you know, in our preparation.
And then one of the inventions, I forget what it was the woman that they touted as being the creator of it. It was her husband that invented it, and that it was it wasn't her. It was her husband. She was just like, I don't know, his assistant.
Wait, could you repeat that? Could you repeat that?
No, I forget the invention of what it was, but essentially, like, they are attaching it with this woman, but it was that woman's husband that was the inventor of it.
Oh, okay.
It's like, what? So, I mean, what? Like, maybe she was his assistant. I don't know, but that doesn't mean you were the inventor of the product.
Right. I mean, what is it like? What's her face? The one that Marie Curie.
Yeah, like,
yeah, and her husband, like Pierre, I believe, Pierre
yeah,
Curie.
Pierre Curie.
What was it? They discovered like radiation.
It was radium. It was
radium. That's right.
They found a new element.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that it was probably more her husband than actually, because she gets like she's top billed in when they reference, you know, them both, you know, and sometimes sometimes, and I even just now I had a hard time remembering the husband's name. I'm in and even right now I'm still guessing that it's Pierre, because it just sounds
I think you're right that it's Pierre Curie, but it's like.
Yeah, but she gets top billing.
All we ever hear about is her.
Yeah, exactly. She gets top billing, but I'm more than, you know, willing to put money on it that the husband was more crucial to that discovery than, say, she was. Not to diminish her involvement or, you know, the credit that is due her, but, like, you know, I'm willing to bet that, you know, the husband was slightly more involved or more critical to this discovery.
He wasn't just like, where do I put the bottle thingy? Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
But what is it? Yeah, me and Robert, you know, before we started recording, we're, you know, kind of talking about this, and, like, you know, the whole ideology of feminism is so retarded. And I don't mean this as an offense to, you know, the mentally diminished, but it's like, but literally meaning, like, hindered or held back. The idea of feminism is, you know, in that, you know, instead of, you know, these women, you know, going out on an equal playing field and demonstrating that they are either, you know, equal to or superior to men, they have to invoke the strong arm of, you know, government to essentially handicap men, or put women above men, and say, like, oh, now, you know, now we're equal. You know,
well,
because
it kind of goes back to feminism is a lot of times feels very linked to socialism in that way.
No, for sure it is. No, for sure it is.
I mean, and if you look back to, like, you know, the whole idea of, like, International Women's Day,
Mm-hmm.
that's a socialist thing that actually helped bring about the Russian Revolution and brought kind of socialism to a grand scale.
Right, because I mean, because you said that feminism has its roots in socialism, and that's 100% true. Because in socialism, there's always the oppressed and the oppressor. And in feminism, women are the oppressed and men are the oppressors. So there's then and women are the victims, men are the victimizers, and so like because you are a man, you are a victimizer, whether whether you know it or not, or you are or not, you are.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah, we were talking, and it's how garbage of an ideology is it that that you have to put yourself above somebody and say, okay, now we're equal. Because because like how men interact, and um, how we engage with how men used to engage with other men is that you either proved your equality or superiority, or in some cases inferiority, through just by demonstration, by proving your worth, and or showing that you are somehow useful. Like there was never a time where one man said to another, "Is like, oh, you have to respect me." The man,
right. Yeah.
it's like you have to respect me because X, Y, Z. It was always it's like a man always proved himself, before he got the respect.
Yeah, you look at a lot of the I look at sports in that way too, because you have especially looking at the NASCAR world, where you'll have these young rookies that come in, and everyone has earned their place to be in like that in that series, in the Cup Series, but a lot of the old guard, the veterans, are going to give them as hard a time as possible. It's kind of like a little bit of like hazing, and it's like, can you take it? And if they stand their ground and they show that they have the talent, they earn the respect. My favorite driver, that I talk about quite a bit, is Dale Earnhardt, and he would piss all these incoming guys. Like, he would ruffle their feathers, see what they could take, and he would wait for them to like kind of get pissed off enough to come up to him. It's like, I'm fucking tired of this shit, or like, go out and like kind of prove that they're good, and maybe wreck him if need be. It's like, all right, cool, we're good. And you just put all that, it's like you've earned his respect, and he was kind of the that bar that everyone looked up to. And it's like, once you earn his, the respect of those guys, then you're in. And it's kind of, and that's a lot of the way life is. It's not you're not handed everything right away. We're all equal, yes, but we have to go out and earn the respect. And just because you're not good at one thing doesn't mean you can't be good at another. And we're all trying to put all these squares in these circle holes, these square pegs in circle holes. It just doesn't work.
And I'm just reminded of something Dave Chappelle said back in Killing Them Softly, where
Yeah.
he was talking about how women nowadays are just giving up sex like willy nilly. And he was talking about pussy like it was a stock. And it was like, yeah, it's like the value the
That's right.
the value of pussy is going down, right? And I mean just and similarly, and similarly, respect is the same thing. Like, it's like what value does respect have if you just give it to everybody willy nilly?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my respect. It's a what is it? It's a very precious commodity.
Exactly.
Right.
Now I will. Here's the difference. Like, I will act respectfully towards pretty much everybody. But as far as like giving you respect, that's not a that comes very that's a more difficult thing to earn.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I always say like, people will always have my decency, but they have to earn my respect.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think everyone should have that same mentality.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, this game, this is complete shit.
Yes,
I mean,
know.
part of me is like curious. I kind of want to go through like all of the, what the cards are. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm hoping someone put them out like online so that you can see them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure it's on Reddit or something.
So I don't have to buy this thing myself, but I do kind of I am highly curious to see what horseshit is being put out there, so that I can, A, laugh at it, and then B, hopefully, kind of, counteract it.
Oh yeah, but also, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying, because I feel like they're lying to these young girls and creating
Oh
another
no! Of course they
generation
are.
of angry, crazy people.
Of course they are. Of course they are. It's all part of like I think it was in like the Communist Manifesto too, where it's like there is an oppressed class, there is a ruling class, and the ruling class suck, and they're evil because they exploit you, and so like you have to overthrow them. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh god, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna comment on something that we were just talking about.
What about me having to buy the game so I can look at all this crap?
Right. That okay. I'm trying to. Oh, god damn it. Yeah. I mean that was. Yeah, I do remember that part. I just can't seem to find my way back.
Man, cocaine's a hell of a drug, isn't it?
Need some smack, bird. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but yeah, feminism is garbage ideology.
I hate the fact that, like, I mean, this board game, I feel, is lying to these young girls, and it's creating this false worldview that they grow up in, and where it's not like them lying, it's them believing a lie, and
no, the lie has now become the truth for them.
Exactly.
The lie has become the truth for them, and that's the scariest thing. I remember talking with a friend of mine who just had a kid. Well, not just had a kid. The kid's one, but I don't for somehow the topic of feminism came up, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty much garbage. And then I talked about no, I'm sorry, I'm all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now. But I basically told her like, oh, when I have daughters, I'm just gonna tell them not to go to college and just get married. And she was like she was like taken aback by what I said. She was like, it's like why? It was like well, what good what good is an education when she's giving up all her when she's gonna give up all her good years of having kids to have a career. That's stupid.
And like it's a lot. It's college. Like unless things change, like I don't know if I want even any of my kids going to college. Just at least the 4-year university system that we have set up now. Unless there's depending on what they're doing, I don't want them anywhere near that.
Right. Yeah. And then and let me just clarify this. barring my future daughters having ridiculously high IQs and having certain talents in certain fields, say like medicine or engineering or whatever. And I'll always leave the choice up to them, but I would highly encourage them not to go to school and to just start families right away.
Yeah.
Because she was and then my friend, she was really taken aback by that, and then I just explained my position. It's like why it's like is my daughter, she's gonna work for once she gets out of school, she's gonna work, and then she's gonna work to pay off her student loan payments, and then she's gonna and then she has to work for a certain amount of years. And maybe she gets and maybe she's really talented at her job and she gets promoted, and so and then that means like more time that she's not spending creating a family for herself. And then by the time she knows it, she's she's 40 years old, and it's already too late for her to start a family.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like those TPS reports aren't gonna tell you that they love you.
Yeah.
My daughter's bosses are not gonna kill for them.
No.
So why would I want my daughter to be alone and loveless?
It's like I said, I don't like when people are being lied to, and like they are, their whole worldview is essentially a lie, because once you start to like see the truth and all that stuff starts breaking down, it's like there's a lot of people that can't handle that. I mean, it's like my whole life was a lie, and then that's where you get like the whole I mean, this is just a factor, not the factor, but this is why people kill themselves.
Mm.
All of a sudden, you discover the truth, and it's like, fuck, I wasted my whole life.
Right? Yeah. I mean, case in point, that lady that wrote Sex and the City, the book. Not the TV story.
Right.
Yeah, she wrote about her misadventures in New York and being this young, beautiful, professional woman who got to go to all these big events and sleep around, and even though she was married, she got to the age of 60 and didn't have any children. And she said
Wow.
it's like she said it herself. She said, I regret not having children.
Yeah.
And so now, she has her husband, but that woman's alone. That woman's alone, and I wouldn't be surprised if the husband was, getting some on the side. I mean, not to besmirch this woman's husband, but if it came out that they were getting a divorce and the reason was because he was getting some on the side, I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
So, yeah, again, I'm not trying to sound callous or because me, I love me some Schadenfreude, but don't take this as don't take this as me delighting in someone else's misery. This is just like I'm just being matter of fact. If it comes out that if it comes out that they're getting a divorce, and it comes out that this he was cheating on her with a younger person, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it's making me depressed just talking about it now. That's how, yeah. And I'm with you. I don't like it when people are lied to. You know.
It's like because well, especially now, as I've gotten older, and I mean, I still try to read as much as I can, and but it's like looking back and discovering new things, and kind of like actually really digging deep on things that I care about. You start to see how like, wow, this was the whole narrative on like certain things that I learned about. Like I feel like that was a lie. I've been lied to like most of my life through school, and it's like, wow, that's not exactly what happened at all. Or we're given kind of more of the simplistic answer, yet it's the truth is always a lot murkier than than we realize. It's not some quick snap at your fingers type of answer. There's a lot more. I really hate this word, nuance. There's a lot more nuance to things than we realize, and the fact that it's just, and so there's a lot of things like, wow, I never thought about things this way. Case in point, like I was recently watching listening to some stuff on the McCarthy trials, and how who that guy was, and it's like, not only was he not wrong, but he didn't go far enough. It's like, and how prevalent communism had already infiltrated the American government and just every facet of American life. Yet he's a vilified man. I mean, when you talk about McCarthy and McCarthyism, I mean that's a pejorative. Like, no, everyone's like, oh, Senator McCarthy, what a fucking bastard. It's like, but that's all anyone talks about. There's like no like good points to him. And that's where I as I've gotten older, I've started to like, wait a second, why is there no other side to this story? It's all like negative press, and certainly there are some people where it's like, okay, maybe they deserve it. Like there's nothing really good about them, but in a lot of cases where it's like, let's take a look and see if there's something else that we're missing here, and a lot of times there is.
Mm-hmm. Right. What is it? Yeah, I mean, the infiltration was deep and pervasive. It started in like the the worker unions, and a lot of the artistic guilds, like specifically in Hollywood.
Yeah.
A lot of the actors guilds, or the like the Teamsters, it was heavily infiltrated by communist and socialist subverters, and it totally changed Hollywood and like how they made movies. And although there is there's some delicious irony. There's this one like really like socialist guy. He wrote a western. I forget what it was called, but it was supposed to be all about about it was supposed to be kind of like a veiled kind of a tell-all about this one person in like their guild, and he ratted on people or something. But it was like set in like the old west, but it ended up it ended up being this huge success because people didn't take it for what it was, saying like, oh, this guy was bad because he ratted on us. But people took it more as like kind of like this story of like kind of like because all movies are conservative, in that there's a protagonist who stands up against something or someone, and they either prevail or they fail. And a lot of people started identifying with that aspect, where like this guy, he was being persecuted by um, this town, but he stood up to them. He stood up to them, and he eventually prevailed. And so there was like a little bit of irony there. They were trying to make this propaganda piece about how like, oh, if you're a snitch, kind of like snitches get stitches. But it ended up inspiring people to like, oh yes, we have to be strong, and we have to do the right thing. You know, the singular individual against the giant machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's and what I found, kind of going back to our point of, kind of creating these false worldviews, and we have a lot of liars and frauds in the world, and when you start asking questions and telling the truth, it pisses those people off a lot, and that's where you get like oh, you're just a misogynist, you're just you're just a this, or you're just a that, or you're a racist, you're terrible. It's like, no, I'm just telling the truth based off the facts that are available to us. And once you like kind of circumvent the narrative that's out there, oh, God help you.
Yeah, I mean, because with feminism, what's the narrative? Work will set you free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's that. I don't know. I don't know about you, but that sounds vaguely familiar. Like I saw it. I saw it plastered somewhere over a gate. Somewhere
in Germany.
Somewhere in Germany. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's like, and they talk about like being influential, and what is more influential than being a mother? Raising children. You have a captive audience, as it were.
And in a lot of ways, you have, if you have like you hold a certain worldview that you believe is the right one, that you feel is super important, passing that on to a new generation of people should be the most important thing in the world.
Exactly. It's it's there's this saying. There's this really nice saying that when you plant a tree, you don't plant it for yourself. You plant it for the next generation.
Right.
Because because typically tree for a tree to be useful or to be big and grand and be of any use to anybody, it takes a really long time. I mean, particularly like let's take the oak for example. Like you plant a acorn in the ground. It's not you that's going to benefit from that tree. It's going to be your grandkids. And that's that's what we're all supposed to that's what we're all supposed to do. Is we're supposed to ready the next generation. And whether that's directly being involved in their lives, or setting them up for success.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, ladies, if you want to be influential, if you want to be powerful, have a family.
Yeah.
You could be you can be the matriarch of your family. I mean that sounds pretty good to me.
Sounds pretty good to me too, but we're just misogynists, Andrew. We don't know a damn thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I secretly hate women.
Yeah.
I only say these things because I secretly hate them. Anyways, let's I don't know about you. I'm ready to move on. Unless you have something.
I'm good.
Okay, unless you have something to say to like wrap things up.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it's only a system that's worked for several millennia, so it's
Right. Yeah.
But what do we know?
Yeah. No. It's gonna, yeah, but for sure it was gonna, it was gonna stop it was gonna stop working, sooner or later.
Yeah, right.
All right, on to the next topic of discussion, which is, well, it's a bunch of things, but they're all tied with, they're all in the vein of entertainment, specifically movies. For those of you who are not from this planet, and don't know anything about our culture, recently the final trailer, they said that this was going to be the final trailer for the new Disney Star Wars trilogy movie, the last in this new trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker, just released. And I'm going to be honest, I felt nothing. I literally felt nothing when I was watching this trailer. I did not get excited. I did not get angry. I was not filled with joy, but I wasn't I wasn't despondent over it. It was nothing. Like if I was hooked up to a EKG, I wouldn't be registered.
Well, I know how much the Last Jedi was your favorite of the Star Wars franchise.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started, Robert. Let's not open that can. Let's not open that can of whirlwind.
I mean, we had a whole like top 5 favorite films, and I know that was your number 1, but
you just want to die, don't you? You just want to die.
Yeah, I kind of like I'm torn because yeah, it's just I want to be like excited, but I know I'm gonna be just let down.
Yeah, utterly let down.
Because and it's not so much like we've talked ad nauseum about episode 8 and how I like I said, I don't mind us having new characters and like letting the old ones pass on. That's fine. That makes sense to me. But when you fundamentally change the characters that we know and love, now I'm like pissed off. It's
that that's where you've lost me. Right? And also, if you're going to change a character, explain the change better than I saw a vision where he was going to do something bad, so I had to kill him.
You took like the most hopeful character in the entire series,
right?
And you turned him into this like,
right? Yeah, this misandric, hermit. Which once stood the most hopeful person in the entire galaxy. So hopeful, in fact, that he saw the good in his father, Darth Vader. Someone who was all but written off as it's like no redemption possible.
Right. But I'm kind of like you, where I'm like I want to be excited, but I'm probably gonna go see it just because like fuck, I'm already kind of sort of invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I expect not much. And maybe because I expect nothing out of it, that maybe I'll actually enjoy it, or here I actually kind of compare this new trilogy to the prequel trilogy, which a lot of people hated. The first one was not terrible. It's pretty decent. Second one was god awful, and maybe the third one will actually be pretty damn good. Who knows?
You know what? I want to correct myself. it's not that I didn't feel anything, but the one thing that I did feel was a sense of, okay, it's finally over, or it's finally going to be
It's like,
it's finally going to be over.
it's like, all right, we're gonna kill this.
That's the sense that I felt then after watching this trailer. I was like, at least it's gonna be over.
As we've talked about, the wrong people are in the captaincy of the main storyline of Star Wars, the main films.
Yeah.
We've put the wrong people have been put in place, and they have tried. I mean, they're ruining what should be a great franchise.
Yeah. I mean,
and
just like because all the reports from behind the scenes of firing directors, doing having if not all but majority women in the writing room, because diversity. How is it supposed to be diverse when if not all but majority of your writers are women? Trying to write for a predominantly male franchise.
Yeah,
and not to say that women can't write men, but what we've seen is that they can't write for a woman either, because Rey sucks as a character.
Yeah, she's pretty terrible.
When I see her, I don't feel anything for her. I don't feel hatred for her. Again, I don't feel hatred for her. I don't feel joy for her. When I see her, I just like, eh. And that's not a ding against Daisy Ridley as an actress. It's just the material that she's been given is trash.
Right. She, like I said, she's doing the best she can with what she has available to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was like I said. I think the only actor that I couldn't stand, character wise, and I hope it's she might be a nice person and maybe she's a good actor, but Rose as a character is just I think it's the worst character I've seen in a film in a long time. I mean, it's just easily the most useless character in a story ever.
Pretty much. Yeah, because I mean, it's like, oh, I hate slavery, and I hate mistreatment of animals. But I'm gonna free these space horses, but leave the children to be in slavery.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen movies that have been more crucial to a story than Rose was to that movie.
Oh, I swear to God. Yeah. I mean, yeah. you could take her out and shorten the scene in Canto Bight. I mean, don't get me wrong; it'd still be a crappy movie, but it'd be a shorter crappy movie.
But going back to my point is the wrong people are in charge of the main storyline. Because the thing is, the story itself is actually very good. And I'm looking at just based off of George Lucas's vision for the three trilogies. It's actually a really good story. The execution, whatever they're doing, whatever Disney's done with it, I mean, they are, face fucking the hell out of it. I mean, just using it up. But the thing is, Star Wars is not a dead franchise. You look at a whole bunch of other stuff that's going very well. We've talked about the Clone Wars series, or the Rebels. The Mandalorian looks awesome. I'm ready. I can't wait to watch that.
Right. Dave Filoni should have been put in charge of Star Wars. Right. No question about it, because he created Clone Wars, he created Rebels, he worked directly under George Lucas during Clone Wars, so he learned at the feet of the master, And from what I can see, what he has demonstrated is that he understands what Star Wars is.
Exactly,
And not like Kathleen Kennedy, like looking at it and seeing what Star Wars can made to be.
Yeah, and even on the gaming frontier, we got a new Star Wars game that's coming out. Was it Fallen Order? Yeah, and that looks awesome too. Finally, and hopefully it kind of recorrects the whole Battlefront debacle from the last two Battlefronts, which have been games that look great. Don't get me wrong. I think as far as graphically, it looks great. The Battlefront that came out on PS4, the first one, that was kind of a disaster, mainly because there was no single player campaign. It was all multiplayer. So that kind of sucked. 2 is riddled with because EA is kind of like the Disney of the
Video
gaming
games,
world,
yeah.
where they fuck everything up. They used to be like a really good company, but man, they have fucked a lot of franchises over in the last number of years. Star Wars, this being one of them, because they created this whole microtransaction
Oh yeah.
problem
I
in
remember.
2. Oh man, and the the EA is talking about, oh, we have all these money problems. Yeah, you know why? Because you fucked over all you have ruined your reputation as a gaming publisher. Nobody wants to buy your fucking games anymore because you kind of like Disney, you have face fucked the hell out of them. I mean, they're used up. You can't fill that mouth with cum anymore. Seriously, that's how I feel about it. And I mean, I came into Battlefront 2 a little bit later, and so I kind of they had kind of sort of corrected the whole microtransaction thing because there was a huge backlash against it.
Right, because you're paying
That
like
one
$60 for a video game, and then to get like these supposed like power ups or enhancements, you have to pay more.
yeah, it's bullshit, and for me I don't mind I mean the multiplayer campaign is good. They do have a single player campaign, but you have to make it where it's like you're not making the game challenging. You're just the way to level up and get better. It's like, here's a credit card, boom, I got better. That's not how you. That's not a game. At best it's gambling. It's like,
Oh right, because you don't know
and
what's inside the crate, so you're paying for. Yeah, so it is gambling because you're like you don't know what you're gonna get. You might get like a new blaster, or or you just might get like a few extra lives or something. So it's like, or like you might get like exclusive like armor or whatever. It's like, so you really don't know what you're gonna get when what you pay for.
right, and I'm not saying, in the gaming world, um, I know a lot. I mean, a lot of people don't like this, but I'm not so mad about having extra DLC or downloadable content. Is they want to keep the game alive for a number of years. So, they add some new storylines, new missions, new whatever. That's fine. I actually don't mind that very much. But when the actual the game that you bought, you're not even really getting a full game that you've paid a lot of money for, and the fact that there's no incentive to oh, we gotta just you gotta grind it out, you rough it out, get better, earn these better weapons, better characters, or whatever else in the game. It's to me, that's not a game. That's bullshit. But thankfully, we're actually getting what looks to be a decent Star Wars game. It's not a multiplayer game. It's a single player game that kind of continues, kind of I think it's set in the period right. I want to say it's like right after, or a number of years after episode 3. I could be wrong on that, but it's set like sometime after like a lot of the Jedi were killed off by Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right. It's like the
so
story
it's
is
like
like
after.
what is it? The story is like a Padawan who like kind of is like in hiding, after Order 66 and like the rise of the Empire.
Right, yeah.
And
Because I've tried to stay away from too many trailers just so I can because I want to be I like to go into games somewhat cold, kind of like how I like going into movies somewhat cold, just kind
mm-hmm.
of you know because I don't want to have like expectations in one direction and then like, oh, this it's not what I was expecting, and
Right.
then you end up hating it. But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, yeah, it's kind of like based like right after a number of years after Order 66, and a lot of the remaining Jedi's or Padawans are in hiding, and it kind of takes off from there. So I'm kind of excited about it. The gameplay looks really good. Everything I've heard about it seems like it's going to be a pretty good game. So I mean they're still doing good stuff with Star Wars, but man, they have really fucked over the main fan base
Mm-hmm.
uh, of Star Wars, and I have everyone like said like how bad the prequel trilogy was. Like, I mean that's Oscar worthy compared to what we're getting now.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
But
But yeah, my watching the newest trailer, my feeling is like at least it's gonna be over. Which is a pretty sad statement. Pretty sad state of affairs for Star Wars.
it's unfortunate because Star Wars is it has such a you can go anywhere, and I mean obviously it's not just the side of the Skywalkers. I mean, there's so many different directions that you can go in. There's so many characters that you can dive into. It's such a great franchise, no matter where you look. And I just the fact that Disney owns it, just man, they're just I don't know. I don't feel like I've yet to watch the Han Solo movie. I don't know if I ever will.
Mm.
Um,
You're really not missing much.
yeah,
I mean,
like the
I
last
saw it, and I gotta say, yeah, you're not missing much. No one
yeah
asked for that movie. No. There was no demand for that movie, but yet they're just, Disney's that kid where they get a new toy and it's like, oh, look at this new toy, look at this new toy.
yeah, we were talking about before we started the broadcast, and I mean Rogue One, I actually really liked. That one they
Oh
did,
yeah, me
I think,
too.
a really good job with, and so that's why because this is coming after Force Awakens, which I actually at the time, actually enjoyed a little. I didn't think it was that bad. And then they came out with Rogue One. I was like, all right, they're doing something good with the franchise. Like I'm kind of excited. And man, they took a massive shit with like episode 8, and it's like, okay. And then you get like you hear all the stuff that was going on with the Solo film, and I was like, okay, I think I might be done.
Yeah, I mean, again, Rogue One was one of those things where like, no one was asking for this story. We were content with our imaginations. From when we first heard of like how they got the plan for the Death Star, and it was all just left to our the viewer's imagination. So it's like cool, but then they came out with this movie, and again, there may not have been a demand for this movie or a clamoring for this movie, but I can say that I don't regret that this movie exists.
Right. I even told you that it actually has been included in my Star Wars marathon. Every year.
Mm.
Which actually, crap, that's going to be starting soon. It's almost December.
Are you gonna use my revised viewing order?
Yeah, I think I am. I'm going to try that.
But then, if that's the case, then you have to watch Rogue One before you watch New Hope.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I'm to also implement or include Rogue One in my revised viewing order, then it'd have to be Rogue One, then New Hope, uh, Empire Strikes Back, then to the prequels with optional 1, and then 2, 3, and then end on Jedi.
Yeah. That's probably what I'm going to do this year.
I think I might. I think I might do that as well.
But yeah, I mean, we could even, if you wanted, we could talk about DC and what they've been doing. But I think we'll hold off on that till next time.
Because right now, because Star Wars is the big shit we got to deal with right now. The DC one, the DC will keep. It'll keep.
Yeah, yeah, because there's stuff that I had to talk about with DC too. That like I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean that is a real shit show going on over there. But we'll get into that next time because I do want to talk about that.
All right then. All right, let's get into the movie review for tonight. And tonight's movie is another Heston classic, The Omega Man. And let's get in. Yeah, The Omega Man. This quick synopsis is: due to experimental vaccine, Dr. Robert Neville is the only survivor of an apocalyptic war, with the exception of a few hundred deformed, nocturnal people who are also homicidal maniacs. They blame science and technology for their condition, and they see Neville as the last symbol of science. Therefore, he must die. Neville uses everything at his disposal in an attempt to survive.
Synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to note too. So this I've been watching the since it's almost Halloween. I've been watching a lot of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and the
They did, yeah.
the season 9 one of the shorts from that season's Treehouse of Horror dealt with this very thing. It was kind of like
the whole
a
Mega
parody
Man.
of the Omega Man, which is great. I was like, because before I was like, what is this from? And I thought maybe it was just something original that they created. I was like, but it's like, no, they're usually like parodying some sort of like horror film or something like that. And now that I've watched the Omega Man, which I had never heard of before, it's like, oh, that's what they were going with. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I was aware of the Omega Man, and I knew, I had a loose understanding, but I never watched it. But so yeah, and then I saw it, and I was still able to chuckle at the jokes that that in the Simpson version. But now watching the actual movie, it makes a lot more sense, and I'm able to enjoy all that more. But also, this movie, this is actually the Omega Man was actually either a reboot or a remake from an earlier 1960s version, which starred Vincent Price. And then subsequently they rebooted or redid the Omega Man, but went with the actual title from where they got the inspiration for, which was I Am Legend. Starring Will Smith.
That's right. Yeah, and see, I never. Well, I didn't know that there was a one with Vincent Price. That this was a remake of that, and you had told me that this is essentially like what I Am Legend was a remake of too. So I might have to go and kind of watch through all of them to see which version I like better. I would probably lean towards the Charlton Heston one just because I do like Heston a lot. But yeah, this movie was kind of interesting because you have Dr. Neville who is kind of, you can tell like he's descending into madness in a sense because of the the solitude that he has to endure during the day, but at night like he's constantly under attack from these ghouls, these mutated maniacs. And like the leader of that group is like what Matthias is the and so it's just this constant like battle between him and the group of monsters. And there was a couple of interesting things that you see during the film too, like it's set in Los Angeles, I think, so you get to see a lot of the well, at the time, some of the famous landscapes of Los Angeles, including Dodger Stadium.
Really?
Yeah, so when they first capture Dr. Neville, right, and they're getting ready to burn him. You see that stadium that they're in with all the yellow seats? That's Dodger Stadium.
Okay. For some reason, I thought that was a Coliseum.
No, the seats, those yellow seats, that's Dodger Stadium.
Okay. Okay, that's cool.
And I also know that too, because like when they were finally like escaping through all the tunnels and stuff, that's that's in the baseball stadium.
I see. Yeah, it's funny because initially I thought, kind of like in the Will Smith one, it was taking place in New York. But then once I started to recognize more of the buildings and the landmarks, I was like, oh, this takes place in L.A., which makes sense because when they open up with the news anchor, it's a West Coast or I guess in this case an L.A. station.
Right.
So and then it's funny. It's interesting too that the newscaster ends up becoming the leader of the mutants.
Is that who that was?
Yeah, because the leader of the mutants used a specific phrase, the people of the wheel. And then in kind of like a flashback, the newscaster also uses that phrase. So I was like, I get it.
Shit. I didn't think I missed that part altogether. Man, that's deep. Dude, I had to go back and watch this again. Like it, but yeah, it was weird. Yeah, you see how, but like Dr. Neville, he's descending into madness. Like, and you can kind of tell he's starting to crack a little bit. Like, obviously he's talking to himself, answering like his own questions, hearing telephones ringing that aren't ringing.
Right, because you see, you get the first indications of it when he as he's driving around in his car, he blows out a tire, and I guess he doesn't want to take the risk of or take the time to switch out the tire, so he just goes into like a car dealership and just takes one of the cars. But in the process, he's talking or negotiating with or in his imagination, he's negotiating with the salesperson, even though the salesperson is dead at his desk. And so like you kind of see like the first like stages of him like losing his mind, and then he goes to the movie theater and he watches this movie about Woodstock, and he's able to recite all the lines in the movie, and you just kind of see his like kind of disconnect where he's like, like he just, even though he's repeating these lines because he's watched it, probably hundreds of times, and
Yeah.
like he's gotten to the point where it's like, he just wants to end things. Yet, he still has his will to survive, and then again, he has like the auditory hallucinations where he hears like all the payphones ringing around him, and he has to kind of like snap himself out of it. But interestingly, there is another scene. Right, but interestingly, there is another scene like that when he runs into the woman, Lisa. And
Right.
initially she spots it in the department store, and she like makes a noise, and she like freezes like a mannequin uh, to evade Robert, and then all of a sudden like she bolts, and then so he goes running after her and through the park, and then he's not able to catch her or see her, so he starts trying to um, reaffirm his sanity, and then he's like he's talking to himself. It's like, oh, you're really losing it now. You're seeing things. It's like, no, wait, that's not the first sign of you losing your mind. It's talking to yourself. It's like, yeah, that's right. You're right. And so it's like, kind of like this funny, this kind of humorous take.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
laughed out loud. I was like, I laughed out loud when I heard that. I was like, oh man. um, yeah, this is well. It's funny because this is our this is the second dystopian film that we've seen with Charlton Heston, where it's
but it
like
won't be the
obviously
last.
one is set. Won't be the last either. But one based in LA, one based in New York, one and kind of the opposite problem, whereas like in Soylent Green, there's just too many fucking people like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like in here, there's nobody left outside of this.
Right. Yeah, outside the mutants and a handful of survivors.
Right. And so yeah, he ends up finally getting captured by the ghouls. I forget how he first gets captured by them. Like he was that's right. He was in a bar. It was after he ran through to chasing after Lisa, and he's like, well, better get to the bars before they close. He's looking at his watch it's like who cares if it's
right. And in a world where he's a lone survivor, it's like the bars never close for me.
Right. And he ends up like hearing a noise down in the wine cellar, and it turns out like he ends up getting ambushed by the ghouls, and they end up like sentencing. They put him on trial for being who he is.
Right.
And that's how it starts the whole process of how he meets the other group. That's the other group of survivors. And that's kind of how like where the story goes, and he finds that like his because we at this point we find out like how he survived survived everything because he was a military doctor who had they were working on a cure for this because it was like germ warfare or whatever that was used against them,
right?
And they were doing some tests with some vaccines, and he had as they were trying to fly it over to where they were going, the helicopter pilot succumbed to the disease and was crash landing, and
then he was starting to,
and so he's like, I gotta at least like fuck it, hopefully it'll work, if not then whatever.
Right, because again, like in the synopsis, it talks about an experimental vaccine, and when after the crash, as he's like starting to feel the onset of the disease, he basically has he has nothing else to lose, so he injects himself, and he survives.
Yeah, and that happens. He ends up surviving, and because he's now immune to the disease, he has the cure living within him.
Right.
And
he cures the antibodies, and he can, he's essentially the cure.
Right, and it kind of like it goes from this movie that's kind of like, man, like you're watching a guy descend into madness to a guy who finally, like, you're starting to actually get you feel hopeful. Like it's like, oh man, like good, he's gonna help cure these people that he found, and they're gonna go off and kind of live off the land and kind of live, kind of restart humanity, if you will.
Right. Yeah. There was that line from the kid Dutch, where he was talking about, like, oh, we're gonna drive to a mountain that that has no freeways, or everything that we do there will be for the first time. And
Yeah,
the one of the older kids, like Dutch, is like, yeah, man, it's like it'll be like Garden of Eden, but this time we won't listen to the snake.
yeah, I like that line. I was like, that's that was that was a great line.
Yeah.
I also loved Dutch's jacket, was like giving it the
Yeah, in the
giant
back
middle
is middle
finger.
finger. Yeah.
That was great. But unfortunately, the movie does take a turn where, because unlike Dr. Neville, who is immune, the other survivors, can't succumb to this mutation, if
Right.
not for the as we saw, like, because initially he Dr. Neville helps to cure Lisa's brother, who is starting to turn,
Right.
and he knows that the other guys, it's only a matter of time, so he has to use his own blood to create the serum to help, like, get them healed up.
Mm-hmm.
And he once Lisa's brother, what's his name, was it Richie?
Richie. Yeah, it was Richie.
Yeah, once Richie is cured, and they obviously they have the plan to move to the mountains and get away from the city. He is, Richie is well-meaning, but he's like, we should use this to cure the ghouls,
Yeah,
or
the family.
Matthias and the family. And it's like either that, it's like we either heal them or we have to kill them. We can't just leave them the way that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like,
Yeah, he's just
naively,
a naive, idealistic kid, and he's like, why can't we save them?
and it's like and he's like, they're too far gone, like they're murderous freaks, we can't, they can't be negotiated with.
Right, because
And he
it's one
indulged.
thing, because like Richie, he was just sick, and his sister was taking care of him. He was being looked after, and he hadn't done anything where he might later feel the weight of the guilt of, as opposed to Matthias and the others. They did some shit. They killed people.
Right.
And so, like, what happens when they do get cured? That the weight of what they have, of their crimes is gonna weigh on them. So
Yeah.
in a weird way, it's sort of a mercy that he doesn't cure them.
It's like, because it's like, even I think he wanted to kill them, but he's like, what, no, we'll let them be. It's like, we'll just leave.
Right.
And it would have worked too, but yeah, Richie ended up trying to negotiate with them. They end up killing him, and during this process, Lisa ends up turning, which she turned very quickly.
Right. That was very confusing for me. I was like, because I thought there was a moment where like something happened and like Matthias got to her and like somehow accelerated the process, but like within
Yeah,
like
I don't.
with only within like a couple within a few hours she was full you know ghoul mutant.
Well, they do allude to, or Dutch kind of alludes to that, like earlier in the film, where he talks about, it's like, sometimes it takes, we've seen it where it happens in a matter of minutes, and other times it takes a few weeks, and we just don't know. So maybe like
okay.
so in that case, like maybe it is like it be maybe because she's older
Mm-hmm.
and that she's like, oh well, it just happened very quickly.
Mm-hmm. I see.
So I mean that's a possibility. They did kind of set that up a little bit, but yeah, it was like I was like, yeah, I was a little confused by that as well.
Yes.
And Lisa ends up kind of, in a lot of ways, ends up while she has been good for Dr. Neville, she's a huge weakness to him, because around her, he has his guard down a lot. Even after she had turned, because like I can still rescue her, and that was the opening that was used in the end where Matthias was able to they were able to get into his compound that he had set up, and also was ended up being his demise at the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I don't think we have to say that because everyone knows the score when they come to watch us.
Yeah. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I was hoping that maybe it would end on a hopeful note. I guess it kind of sort of does. I mean, he was able to create hopefully enough serum to for all the
for Dutch and all the kids. And maybe for people who they might run into.
Well, the problem is like they if those are the only people that are left, I think that would have been enough. But if they encounter anybody else, they don't have a doctor there. They can't create. He was the only one that could create that like serum because he was a like kind of a scientist in a way.
Yeah, he was a military scientist. Yeah, but okay, this time really spoiler alert. But in the Will Smith version, the character does die in that too. But he was able to give the sample of cured blood and send it off with this woman who eventually finds other survivors, and and they look like they're pretty well situated. So and it's implied that they are able to synthesize more of the cure and bring back humanity. In the Will Smith version.
I might have to watch that. Like it's been I don't know. I think I watched it, but I don't remember it. So I might have to go back and like rewatch that. And I never saw the Vincent Price one, so I definitely want to watch that.
Right, but I actually looked into it and just going by the kind of like the plot outline, it leans a little bit more toward like the Vincent Price's wheelhouse and like the kind of horror genre where the mutants in his version are more vampiric and they're susceptible to steaks and garlic.
I see. Okay, so that like in that one they're more like vampires. Here it's like they're not even really like zombies in a sense. Like they're
right because they're still fully cognitive, and they still remember things, about their lives. But then they're but the disease also kind of warps their minds a bit.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like they have become new beings in a sense. Like, and they even like kind of refer to themselves like like, oh, you're the dead old ways. We're the new. And isn't that with like I Am Legend? Like they're almost like these weird monsters.
Yeah, they're like these zombie vampire. I think this is where it gets interesting because in the Will Smith version, I think they do kind of a combination where they cut because in the Will Smith one, the turned, let's call them, are actually attracted to blood.
Okay, so yeah, then they're more zombie-like in that sense.
And they have an aversion to sunlight. because if they come out in the sunlight, then the UV like starts burning them. So they're a little bit more vampiric, even though.
So it's kind of like a mixture of like the two, then, in a way.
Right, and then because in I Am Legend, the character of Dr. Neville, he keeps a diary, or he keeps a log,
Right.
and he noted a behavioral anomaly in the turn where one of the turn exposed himself uh, to light to try and save another turn person.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so in that way, like you do kind of get like the merging of the two previous versions, where you have like these vampiric creatures, but then they also display some kind of awareness. Maybe not like
Yeah.
not maybe able to verbalize like in Omega Man, but
Yeah.
but they still have an awareness or some level of consciousness where that they are able to form, interestingly enough, family groups, quote unquote.
Yeah. It's I don't. It was a very interesting film. Like I said, I went into this completely blind,
Mm-hmm.
not really knowing anything about it. Um, so I mean, it was definitely a good choice. I'm glad we chose this film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean that's really all I had to say about it. Obviously, in the end, Dr. Neville dies. Hopefully, saving the rest of those survivors. But it is left a little bit ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Lisa, I think even though she had kind of become one of the other creatures, I don't think she was beyond saving. And her consciousness, like she was kind of, it kind of reminded me like how she reacted. Is the Here's the other thing. Here's my other theory about this too, because we know that Dr. Neville was the only one that was completely immune, and later
Mm-hmm.
Richie becomes immune to this disease, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them obviously they had been with the family beforehand, yet they did not show like the same signs, like their skin wasn't, they didn't have the um, um, what's the when the skin's like all white, the skin and the hair is all white, the albino.
Albinism.
Yeah, albinism, and like the the eyes, kind of like the day blindness and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they had been with the family, and you can almost like in a Dracula fashion, once Matthias and the group started to chant, it was almost like a lure to Lisa, and I'm wondering if maybe that's what like kind of finished her turning um, into like one of them. Whereas like once like that whatever that disease was, maybe them all like doing that chant like helped kind of finish the transformation. Because we do see later on where she's like she wants to help Dr. Neville and like go with him because her consciousness knows that like, oh, I love this guy, I want to be with him, and I want and all that stuff, and he has the cure. Yet when Matthias is calling out to her, it's like Lisa, Lisa, and like they do all that chants, like she can't be helped, but like it draws her to him, and she's torn. So I'm kind of wondering if it's more kind of almost like a Dracula and Renfield type of situation.
Maybe. I mean, because I haven't read the book, but that this movie is based on. Um, but
And I'm just
that
going based off of this film.
right,
I'm
right,
not
right,
even
right,
like
right.
making anything
But
about
it
any
might
other
be,
film.
it might, because the author of the book also helped write the screenplay, so it might be, some sort of tie-in to the original story, where like yeah, the people infected by this disease might, become like vampire-like creatures.
Yeah, I mean it's like they're nocturnal.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
sensitive to the sun or light. And then at least in Omega Man, they never mention anything about this need for blood, but they do remark that in the later movie I Am Legend. So.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any other like thoughts about it about this movie, Andy? Any other like funny moments or whatever that you liked from the film or didn't like?
Not really. No, this. I mean, I really like this movie. I thought the humor was great. Especially because it's. It's kind of like the conversations you would be having with yourself if you were by yourself.
Oh yeah, I did love that part.
So it was very believable in the sense like if you had to endure a long term isolation, of course you might be start talking to yourself, or you might have you might start playing chess with imaginary friend.
Yeah, Charlton Heston was great in this film. I mean, obviously, once again, he stole the show.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like because he did get the majority of the screen time, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't the only like good actor. Like the leader of the group, Matthias, like he was pretty like oof. It kind of creeped me out a little bit. But the other characters were good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all this. Yeah. Again, yeah. The Charlton Heston might have been the star, but the supporting cast was also fantastic, and really
Yeah.
really added to this film.
So should we give our ratings then?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
You want to go first, Andy?
Okay, I'll go first this time. I'm gonna give this movie. I'm gonna give this movie a 4.
Ooh, okay. I'm actually gonna give it a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, like Charlton Heston was great. It's yeah, it's not like you said, 3.5 is not a bad like rating. It's just
No.
I'm comparing based off like the other Heston films that we've been watching so
Mm-hmm.
far. It's like I said, it's no Ben-Hur, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm still kind of debating whether I liked this over Soylent Green.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a really good film. Like I said, there's a few things that are a little ambiguous. So I like I said, I'm still kind of digesting it and like kind of running my theories that I have. And yeah, I don't know, it's a good movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Yeah, I don't necessarily have anything bad to say about it. It just wasn't like it wasn't like a masterpiece, but it's a good film.
right. Exactly. I mean, yeah, if we're comparing it to the other Heston movies that we watched so far, yes, of course, nothing will surpass Ben Hur. But I think that this was slightly better than Soylent Green. But again, like there were some things where it was confusing, or it just like really weird editing decisions. Um,
Yeah, you could definitely tell too, like especially towards the end, like the final scene, like there was a lot of weird cuts, right?
mhm.
Okay, and it was like, but it was like really noticeable.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well there you have it. That was our review of the Omega Man. I gave it a 4. Robert gives it a 3.5. We definitely would recommend this movie. It's good fun. Um, you may not want to watch it with kids, because they might get freaked out by the mutants. Uh, but still, it's a good movie, and still highly recommended.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the show. I hope I hope you were entertained. I hope you were, I hope you were maybe inspired to go check out the Omega Man.
Go watch it. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you. We'll be back next week. At 8 o'clock ish, sometimes live. Don't forget to check out the library of other shows we have. The main Circle of Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow our social media accounts: Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, for Robert and I, we thank you, and we'll see you next week. And don't do anything I would.